Immortality Part 3. This is the second idea, yet this is not sufficient. There will still be more doubts. It is very good to say that there is no destruction for any force, but all the forces and forms that we see are combinations. This form before us is a composition of several component parts, and so every force that we see is similarly composite. If you take the scientific idea of force and call it the sum total, the resultant of several forces, what becomes of your individuality? Everything that is a compound must sooner or later go back to its component parts. Whatever in this universe is the result of the combination of matter or force must sooner or later go back to its components. Whatever is the result of certain causes must die, must be destroyed. It gets broken up, dispersed, and resolved back into its components. Soul is not a force, neither it is thought. It is the manufacturer of thought, but not thought itself. It is the manufacturer of the body, but not the body. Why so? We see that the body cannot be the soul. Why not? Because it is not intelligent. A corpse is not intelligent, nor a piece of meat in a butcher's shop. What do we mean by intelligence? Reactive power. We want to go a little more deeply into this. Here is a picture. I see it. How? Rays of light from the picture enter my eyes and make a picture in my retina, which is carried to the brain. Yet there is no vision. What the physiologists call the sensory nerves carry this impression inwards. But up to this, there is no reaction. The nerve center in the brain carries the impression to the mind, and the mind reacts, and as soon as this reaction comes, the picture flashes before it. Take a more commonplace example. Suppose you are listening to me intently, and a mosquito is sitting on the tip of your nose and giving you that pleasant sensation which mosquitoes can give. But you are so intent on hearing me that you do not feel the mosquito at all. What has happened? The mosquito has bitten a certain part of your skin, and certain nerves are there. They have carried a certain sensation to the brain, and the impression is there, but the mind, being otherwise occupied, does not react, so you are not aware of the presence of the mosquito. When a new impression comes, if the mind does not react, we shall not be conscious of it. But when the reaction comes, we feel, we see, we hear, and so forth. With this reaction comes illumination, as the Samkhya philosophers call it. We see that the body cannot illuminate because, in the absence of attention, no sensation is possible. Cases have been known where, under peculiar conditions, a man who has never learnt a particular language has found to be able to speak it. Subsequent inquiries prove that the man had, when a child, lived among people who spoke that language, and the impressions were left in the brain. These impressions remained stored up there until, through some cause, the mind reacted, the illumination came, and then the man was able to speak the language. This shows that the mind alone is not sufficient, that the mind itself is an instrument in the hands of someone. In the case of that boy, the mind contained that language, yet he did not know it. But later there came a time when he did. It shows that there is someone besides the mind, and when the boy was a baby, that someone did not use the power. But when the boy grew up, he took advantage of it and used it. First, here is the body. Second, the mind or the instrument of thought. And third, behind this mind is the self of man. The Sanskrit word is Atma. As modern philosophers have identified thought with molecular changes in the brain, they do not know how to explain such a case, and they generally deny it. The mind is intimately connected with the brain, which dies every time the body changes. The self is the illuminator, and the mind is the instrument in its hands. And through that instrument, it gets hold of the external instrument, and thus comes perception. The external instruments get hold of the impressions and carry them to the organs. For you must remember always that the eyes and ears are only receivers. It is the internal organs, the brain centers, which act. In Sanskrit, these centers are called indriyas, and they carry sensation to the mind, and the mind presents them further back to another state of the mind, which in Sanskrit is called chitta. And there they are organized into will. And all these present them to the kings of kings inside, the rulers on his throne, the self of man. He then sees and gives his orders. Then the mind immediately acts on the organs, and the organs on the external body. The real perceiver, the real ruler, the governor, the creator, the manipulator of all this is the self of man.